It's a crazy time when you think someone's gonna be safe because they got found not guilty in a murder trial, but they're really in more danger now because the streets remember everything and the streets know you connected somehow. So even if the courts don't think that you're guilty, the streets already found you guilty and they already putting BTA on everybody involved with young Dolph passing away. But before we get into this video, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and follow me on Instagram and TikTok at WildBoyG. Let's go ahead and get straight into the video. So young Dolph, alleged mastermind behind his hit Hernandez Govan, has been found not guilty on all charges dealing with him associated with the actual murder of young Dolph. Now, it is a shock to a lot of people because he was the mastermind that was painted to be the guy behind the scenes pulling all the strings right under Big Juke, which is Yo Gotti's older brother, which is a big part of CMG as well. But all the killers did get caught. His daughter ended up getting killed because he had some type of involvement with this. So the streets already solidified their justice, while a lot of other people getting killed behind the scenes as well. But this is a clip from the actual courtroom showing us what happened.
State of Tennessee versus Hernandez Govan, count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant Hernandez Govan not guilty in count 2 of the indictment. Ma'am.
Court's in session.
Ma'am. Ms. Johnson, is this your verdict? Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict? Is this your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want to thank you for your service this.
So the reason that he was able to be found not guilty and he was actually able to walk scotch-free out of that courtroom was for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons being that he was an OG and actually went about this a smart way. There is no phone records of this being discussed. There's no text, there's no calls, there's no FaceTimes, there's nothing to link him with the shooters necessarily as being the one that called the shots, put the money initially on his head, or even had anything really to do with this murder because he did it the right way. Not saying that he had anything to do with it, but there is a big chance that he did. But since he did things the right way, he wasn't able to be charged with the murder essentially because he didn't have any phone records. There wasn't nothing they could tie to the shooters. On top of that, the shooters took the stand. They snitched, but they didn't snitch on Govan necessarily. They snitched on everybody else, including themselves, trying to save their ASS from going to prison for the rest of their life. But of course that didn't save them. They ended up getting life in prison and they're in prison right now, I'm assuming, either awaiting their sentencing or already got sentenced. They're in prison fighting for their life. Now the only evidence that the state had that Govan was actually even involved in this was the shooters going on stand and actually pointing the finger. But here's the thing about shooters, they'll say anything to get off of the stand and they'll say anything to get the heat off of them. So you really can't trust a snitch, and even the state knows this, so they gotta take everything that the shooter says with a grain of salt. That's why usually it doesn't take one shooter, it takes multiple people and multiple witnesses to take the stand and say the same thing for them to actually get believed, and the evidence has to get matched up as well. So it's not really more so of a he say she say, it's more so of a he say he say he say he say she say, and we got evidence to back it up. That gets people locked up when people start snitching, but they didn't have that, so Govan was able to walk free because of that. But the thing that I don't like about this is after getting told that he wasn't guilty, of course you want to be thankful, but you're trying to act like you're not a street guy. You're trying to act like you have no idea why you're even involved in this, no idea where your name's being brought up, no idea why you're even a suspect in this at all. But we all know the truth. You be tweaking. You are a street guy. You have been involved in the streets for as long as you can remember, but you want to get on here and act all innocent while young Dolph's family is grieving, while everyone in the courtroom knows that you have something to do with it. But the streets will take vengeance on it. Now there is a lot of speculation still on why he actually did not get charged with a guilty plea. There is a lawyer that's been following the case closely, step by step, and going to each court day, and he has his own interpretation of why Govan did not receive a guilty plea and was actually found innocent, and it might get deeper than you think.
The only thing that I understand that state to have produced to the jury for them to consider were you've got multiple phone calls, and for Mr. Govan to be the admitted dealer of the state's main witness of supplying pills and all those things, that would not be a surprise if you've got multiple contacts, they live in the same neighborhood. You can't just go off of, well, I called this person a ton of times to prove a conspiracy case. That's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, so what happens now then?
Well, I think, as the state someone alluded to in their closing argument yesterday, and someone in the way of the proof through one of the law enforcement witnesses, are there additional parties who could be complicit in the conspiracy? I don't know if that's the case. We heard Mr. Mims' name mentioned a lot, but he's now deceased. So obviously nothing can come of that. It just, I think they need to take a step back and probably regroup and see if the investigation needs to go anywhere or if it just rests there. They do have at least two of the individuals, the most complicit, the actual shooters, accepting responsibility in one case and being found guilty in the other case.
Yes. Do you think this makes it more or less likely that they're going to be able to go after, higher up parties?
Less likely. I mean, you would be putting the state's main witness on now for a third or fourth or fifth trial. And every single time that he goes and gets on the stand, the hope as a defense attorney is his testimony changing? And bit by bit, piece by piece, it's just like he becomes a weathered person at that point. I mean, that's a taxing thing to be on the stand, multiple trials for multiple hours at a time, and have to remember and be consistent with everything.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it was a pretty quick trial. To come to this conclusion within just 3 or 4 days,
right,
seems like the jury knew kind of what they were going to come to.
Well, I don't know if that's the case that they knew. I mean, well, obviously, from a human perspective,
right, they decided
told not
quickly.
Exactly. I mean, it was one of those things that they probably had to go back into the jury deliberation room and say, do we believe what he said, the state's main witness? Forget what the girlfriend said for the most part. Law enforcement's testimony wasn't really helpful whatsoever. The autopsy, it was what it was. But does this young man's testimony line up? And do we have enough? And what a lot of people fail to remember is that it's not just beyond a reasonable doubt. It is beyond a reasonable doubt for a criminal case. But in our jury instructions, as Judge Johnson Mitchell read to the jury yesterday, it requires a moral certainty. And that level of certainty that you would exercise in your most important affairs, where to put a sick parent, where to move, things higher than that, quite frankly, what to do about a parent who's suffering with a deliberate, just a horrible illness or sickness. Those are the levels of certainty that you have to have when convicting a person, because truthfully, you're obviously taking a person's freedom away. And the jury knows the stakes, even though they don't know the potential consequences and aren't told about the punishment options.
So the main thing that saved Govan is before and after the murder, for months, he was not reached out to by the killers. He wasn't reached out to via FaceTime, call, text. He wasn't alerted. They didn't ask him for any money. They actually reached out to Big Juke, which is Yo Gotti's older brother, before they reached out to Govan, inquiring about getting the money and inquiring about getting out of the state, because they knew what was coming and knew retribution was coming for them. So with the killers admitting that, hey, we weren't really in contact with him, we were more in contact with Big Juke, this actually cleared his name a lot. And on top of that, what actually helped to clear his name a lot too was the fact that he was a known drug dealer in the area, and to the shooters, he was just their plug. He would serve them pills, he would serve them with weed, he would serve them with whatever drug they needed at that moment. So I have explained why, if they did have any conversation or have any back and forth, why it didn't stand up in the court of law, because you weren't actually doing anything. You were just selling to them, and that has nothing to do with this murder trial right now. So we may be able to retry you or get you on another charge, but it's nothing going to be as serious as this, and they probably don't even care, because this was about the murder of young Dolph. It doesn't have to do with the murder of young Dolph. They really don't care. But it's also a big chance that other CMG members are going to get caught up in this as well, and they're going to be coming down with either, I think, a RICO for CMG or some of the street gangs in Memphis, or they've been coming down with a hammer and putting more law enforcement on the street and more feds in the midst of Memphis, because they're trying to get these streets cleaned up. And with more rappers getting more money, and these rappers are obviously putting hits onto the street with the money that they're getting from rapping, there's going to be a big turn sooner or later with rappers getting locked up and indicted, as you can see with Lil Durk, as you can see with CMG, what's going on with them, as you can see with Slime and YSL, as you see what they're trying to do with 4PF. They're trying to get all these criminals, especially successful criminals that happen to be successful in rap, off the streets to kill their career and make sure that they don't have the money to keep fueling the violence within the streets. Honestly, bro, I'm gonna be real. If you're in the streets and you still are rapping, why are you trying to supply the streets with the money you're making from rapping and acting like we don't know where it's coming from, where you're the only person in your hood that has any type of money? It's not stupid. The feds aren't stupid. We aren't stupid. Do something smart with your money and get out the streets. But let me know what you think about the video. I'm gonna be coming back with another one later today. You already know I come on 2 a day every day. But let me know what you think about this in the comment.